Hey friends, it's Mel. Welcome to my kitchen. It's time for another What's for Dinner video where I bring you a few of the meals we've had this week in our house in hopes of giving you a little help to find some new things to feed your family or maybe some old favorites you forgot about. So it's been a long, hard, hot week. It's time to sit back, get some sweet tea, relax, and let me do the cooking. The first dish I'm going to show you is actually a side. It's called a Veggie Baked Mac and Cheese. And I'm just preparing a box of this Cracker Barrel white cheddar macaroni and cheese according to the package. And then I've got just a little bit of olive oil and some butter heating there in the skillet. And I have halved the recipe that I'm linking down in the description box for you. And I have just thrown me in some veggies. I had a little bit of frozen onion, just a wee little bit of garlic that I'm putting in here, probably half a cup of fresh asparagus and half a cup of fresh broccoli. Then I had a half a cup of mixed veggies I put in, and I just had some little bacon pieces that I threw in there too. And I'm just going to cook all this up in this skillet. Just get it tender. It doesn't have to be all the way done. Just want to get it kind of softened up just a little bit. And this recipe actually called for 2 20-ounce containers of the Bob Evans white cheddar macaroni and cheese, and that stuff must be a unicorn because I never did find it. But this right here works just fine, and I sure didn't need 2 20-ounce containers of it. So I just mixed up that one container of the Cracker Barrel macaroni and cheese, and now I'm just going to put it over into my veggies that I've softened up, and I'm going to mix all of that together. Once I get it combined, I've got a casserole dish that I've sprayed with some Pam, and I'm just going to turn it into that dish. I just like to mix it around a little bit more and get some of my veggies up on top and spread out good. This is a very pretty dish. I was very excited about it too. It is very good. You're going to top it with some mozzarella cheese, probably about half a cup or so, and going to throw that in a preheated oven, 350 degrees, about 15 or 20 minutes, and brown the top of it. But once I got mine in there, I thought it needed a topping. So I'm going to melt a little bit of butter, and I come back for that last little bit too. It just couldn't sit there. And I melted it in the microwave, and then I've got some panko breadcrumbs that I'm just going to mix in there. And I'm just going to pull mine back out of the oven real quick and put it on the top. This was something I thought of after the fact. This is not in the recipe link either. But after I stuck it in the oven, I thought, man, that would be good with a little crunchy topping on top. So I just mixed this up, and like I said, I just pulled my casserole dish back out, topped it, and put it back in. This dish right here was wonderful. Now, I knew my husband was not going to like this, and probably one of my daughters would not like it. Neither one of them tried it, nor I didn't expect them to. But me and my oldest, we loved this, and I ate this a few times. I'll definitely be making this again. I thought it was delicious, and you can just use whatever vegetables you want in with it. Look how pretty and brown that come out of the oven. That was so good. And I had just a few odds and ends in my freezer that I was needing to get rid of. I had these tater rounds. I had a couple bags of chicken. I had these Kroger chicken strips and a few pieces of the Aldi red bag chicken. And I was just going to cook that up and eat with this tonight. Just a very simple, quick dinner. And like I said, this was so good. I loved this veggie mac and cheese. If you like veggies and you like mac and cheese, You'll love this. I think this would be wonderful with some zucchini and squash in it too. But there is a plate with some of the Aldi chicken and the mac and cheese, and then I didn't get a picture of everybody else's plate. Some of them had tater tots and chicken tenders and something else that we had left over from another night, but that was my plate and it was delicious. Now I'm putting together a Crockpot pork chop and sweet potato dish. I'm doing this the night before and I'm working on the little marinade that it's going to set in first. And you use a 1/4 cup of brown sugar and 3 tablespoons. It called for balsamic vinegar. I didn't have that, so I just substituted some red wine vinegar and then a little salt and pepper. And just kind of mix all that together in a bag, and then I will put everything else in it to marinate overnight. And then all I have to do the next morning is put it in the crock pot on low and let it cook while I'm gone to work. Now I'm just going to run through this and kind of show you what I did. I will leave the pen linked below, but I'll just tell you, none of us liked this. I don't know if it was because it sat in the marinade overnight. I do that all the time to stuff. But I did use 2 sweet potatoes and about 3 apples in it. And there was also some onion in it. I don't know what it was. Whenever we got it out of the crock pot, it was just like mush. And the pork chops, everything was the same color. The pork chops, the sweet potatoes, everything just looked like one big pot of mush, and nothing had any taste at all. So I would not recommend this recipe. If you want to mess with it and tweak it and whatever, that'd be great. Let me know if you find a better something, better way to do it. But I had high hopes for this because I love sweet potatoes and apples, and I could just see this being such a warm, autumny type dish that I would just love and be in the crock pot. But no, we did not like it at all. So that was a failure to me. But this asparagus, on the other hand, that I worked on, this was pretty good. And I just have some little bit of boiling water over in my saucepan over there, and I have just broken the woody ends off of this little bit of asparagus I had left. And I'm going to put the lid on this saucepan and cook this in this boiling water, maybe just 3 or 4 minutes. And then I've got a sheet pan over here that I've just sprayed. And once my asparagus is cooked up, I'm going to drain it and I'm going to throw it on that sheet pan, pour just a little smidgen of melted butter on it, and I'm just going to season it with some pepper and then cover it with some shredded Parmesan cheese. And I'm going to throw that in the oven about 350 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes, just long enough to let it get just a little bit cooked and melt that cheese over it. This was delicious. I loved this. Of course, I knew my husband and my youngest would not eat it, but this was great. I had more of that macaroni and cheese left over and some corn, and I think I went back and got more mac and cheese, and that's what I had because I didn't eat any of that sweet potato mess over there. That was just not good. But anyway, that is done. Before I get into the next meal, I just wanted to show you a little bit of how I freeze my hamburger meat and stuff. If you've been watching my grocery hauls, you know I hauled a fair amount of hamburger meat. So this is what I do to mine. This is a 3-pound roll, and I had about 3 of these to fix up. And I'm just kind of showing you how I open this big roll where I can get to it good. And then I just eyeball it. This is 3 pounds, so I just kind of divide it 3 separate little ways here. And I don't weigh it out or anything. I just kind of eyeball it. I will use gallon size freezer bags, and I'll put 2 pounds in each freezer bag, and I try to keep it separate and not touching, and I smush it down just a little bit. I don't completely flatten it, because I do want to get 2 pounds of meat in here. And I have not dated my bags yet. I forgot to write on them at first, but don't worry, I do go back and write what it is and the date. But I ended up with about 3 big gallon size bags here full of hamburger meat that I needed to freeze. And when I'm sealing it up, you can see I just kind of push them down just a little bit more, try to get all the air out of those bags and try to keep the little sections of meat from touching one another so they won't stick. I just always lay them out on a baking sheet, and I'll stick them in my deep freezer and let them freeze. And then I'm good on meat for a good little bit. But tonight I am making an old favorite. I am making Crunchwrap Supremes for us. We've not had these in a long time, and I have shown this on my channel before, but you're going to see some repeats on here. My family has favorites, and what they ask for is what I'm going to make them. So I'm just browning up my taco meat as always. And I did want to let you know, a lot of times you may see me in the same clothes. I heard somebody talking about this on their channel the other day, and I thought, I bet people think I'm wearing the same clothes all the time too. And really I do a little bit, but when y'all see me cook dinner, I've been at work all day, and the first thing that I do when I get home is get out of my work clothes, and I put on like my comfy leggings and some of my old t-shirts. Then right after dinner, I usually put my PJs on. Sometimes you'll see me cooking in my PJs. I try not to show much of myself whenever I'm doing that, but it does happen from time to time. I know they're my PJs when I see them. But a lot of times I'll wear the same outfit for 2 or 3 days. I just have it on a couple hours after work. So anyway, I just thought, I notice things like that in people's videos, so you may be noticing that in mine too. But I'm just prepping all the things for the crunch wraps here. Making the taco meat, shredding up the lettuce, and I had a few extra ingredients this night for them. And here's just the big spread of everything that we have laid out here going in crunch wraps. In my husband's, I did use some of those leftover black beans and green chilies and corn, and he said that took his to a whole nother level. He loved that, and that was in addition to the ground beef and the cheese and all of that stuff. But I just wanted mine just classic. So I spread out some nacho cheese, and these are the large burrito size flour tortillas, ground taco meat, lay out a corn tostada, and you want to, you're making your meat and your cheese about the size of that tostada. Spread that with some sour cream and then some taco sauce. Then you're going to come in with your veggies, and I'm using lettuce. I put a little salsa in mine, and then some shredded cheddar cheese. And I always just tear a little bit of another flour tortilla and put it over the top, because you do have a little bit of a gap there whenever you go to fold this in if you have it nice and full. But here's just the best way to show you to fold this is just to show you. You just kind of got to use all your fingers and all your hands. You just go around the circle and just fold everything in, and then I have a skillet with some butter melting in it, and you're going to put that in your skillet. I start with mine seam side down. I just let it sit in there for 3 or 4 minutes on that side. When it's good and brown, I'll flip it over and do the other side. We have not had crunch wraps in so long, and I saw Tiffany over at Large Family Love make some the other day, and I thought, I've got to have those. It's been way too long. I needed one. Actually, Tiffany may have been the one that was talking about wearing the same clothes every day too. But here is my big humongous one. These were so good. If you have not try you Crunchwrap at home, take a Taco Tuesday and have one. I like to serve mine with just a little bit of salsa and some of this white cheese that we get at Sam's Club. And that was Taco Tuesday, but I think it might have been Wednesday. Now I'm going to make a meatloaf here, and I was going to do a little experiment. I don't usually line my baking dish with aluminum foil, but I was going to try to see if I could drain the grease out of it easier if I lined it with foil. But I'm just making a little small meatloaf, and I'm using probably about a pound of meat, and I'm putting Lowry seasoning salt. I have a little small can of tomato sauce, using probably 3/4 of that, some frozen onions. I'll use about a cup of oatmeal and 1 egg as a binder. And I have sprayed this aluminum foil, and I just always mix my meatloaf up in the dish that I'm baking it in because I think that's easier. I will type out the recipe for this meatloaf and have it in the description box. I'll also link you one of the earliest videos on my channel was this meatloaf, and it's just a whole video dedicated to that, and you can learn a little bit about my friend Mary. This is her recipe. This is Mary's meatloaf, and I put that in the oven on 425 for about 30 to 45 minutes. And now we're going to make the topping, and I'm using the rest of that tomato sauce, and I'm just using a little squirt of yellow mustard. Use a couple big spoonfuls of brown sugar and just a little bit of apple cider vinegar. Meatloaf was not anything that I was ever super crazy about, but once Mary had given me this recipe, I have never made it any other way since. If you have not seen my original meatloaf video, go back and watch that, and it may go into a little bit more detail if you need more detail, but you will love just to hear a little bit about Mary and how sweet she is. So here, it's coming out, and then I'll top it, and I'll let it cook with the topping on another 10 or 15 minutes. Now I'm going to do my mashed potatoes. I think I've showed you this before. This was just a small amount of potatoes, and I threw in a half a stick of butter, just a big spoonful of this whipped cream cheese, and I'll just mash it around a little bit, throw in some milk then, and stir it all up, salt and pepper, give it a taste, and see where we stand. And one thing you may have noticed in my meatloaf, I don't actually make it in the shape of a loaf. I like to spread mine out in a casserole dish because it does cook a whole lot quicker. And I just like it that way. But the topping is definitely what makes this meatloaf the bomb. It's sweet and it's savory, and I just love it. And here it comes out. I'll plate her up a little bit. And my little experiment with aluminum foil, it was okay. I'll show you here in a minute how much grease. I was able to, like pour it out a little bit easier having the aluminum foil. It poured out a little bit, but even though I sprayed it, I guess it was because I mixed it in there. My favorite part, the crust and the edges, really stuck to that aluminum foil. And you can see I got quite a bit of grease out on that plate too. But my favorite part, the crust on the edges and stuff, stuck to my aluminum foil. So I don't think I'm going to fool with that anymore. I may just have to get me one of those nice meatloaf pans that has the little draining thing in it. But anyway, this was a delicious meal. I had some canned green beans that I just doctor up. You know, basically just some grease and butter and salt and pepper and good old favorite meatloaf. It's always a hit. Friday night, we took it easy. It had been a long week, and we just ordered takeout from our favorite little local place. My husband got this huge hamburger. Me and my daughter, we always get this chicken tender dinner, and we split that. We just get double fries, and they use this mesquite on their fries that's so good, and they make the best homemade honey mustard. Friends, in case you missed it, I did want to let you know I posted a beautiful and delicious lemon strawberry poke cake. That video went up Wednesday, and next week I'll see you on Tuesday instead of Wednesday with a big grocery haul, and then Sunday for another week's full of meals. Until then, take care, and I send you love from my kitchen.